Hello, I am going to describe what is in the birth charts of rock and roll stars. Specifically, we looked in detail at the charts of rock and roll stars from the 60s and 70s. So this is the rock star AstroSignature, combination of astrological things that can appear in the charts, or not can appear, are likely to appear in the birth charts of rock stars. And here it is. This is what's in their charts. The potential to be a rock and roll star in the style of the rock stars of the 60s and 70s is indicated by Venus and Uranus in vibrations 11, 22, or 44. That's 11, 11 times 2, and 11 times 4. In the 11 vibration chart, it's going to appear as a conjunction, opposition, or square in the 11 vibration chart. That's simple. Also, if Pluto also gets involved, so you have something like a T-square of Venus, Uranus, and Pluto, or maybe Venus conjunct Uranus, opposition Pluto, any combination of conjunctions, oppositions, and squares between Venus, Uranus, and Pluto, where all three are within orb, that especially inclines to be a rock star because you've added the compulsive, obsessive quality of Pluto to the Venus-Uranus. And why does Venus-Uranus in 11, 22, or 44 incline to be a rock star? Because Venus-Uranus has to do with spontaneous attraction to beauty, and Uranus has a rhythmic quality to it because energy flows in waves and it has this bounce, this rhythm. So we know that Uranus is spontaneous, often leads to surprises, but it also has a kind of rhythm, a kind of beat to it. Venus-Uranus is related to music, to dance, and to sexuality. The excitement, the vibrancy, the electricity of the music, the dance, and being sexually excited, these kinds of things. And 11, 22, or 44 means extremely electrified, can't sit still. So it inclines to rock and roll. Just you can't wait. You just got to rock out, man. You got to just cut loose, go wild. So that's why it's inclined to rock and roll. And people with these kinds of aspects in their birth charts can get a release, can get fulfillment, can get engaged with this energy through rock and roll. Now also you'll see in the charts of rock stars, Venus and Uranus in vibes 5 or 10. Excuse me. Why 5 and 10? Because Venus and Uranus in vibrations 5 and 10 is inclined to music, period. It's so strongly inclined to music, any kind of music. So the 5 and 10 vibration for Venus and Uranus can show up in other styles of music, but it's so inclined to music of any kind that it will appear in rock stars as well. So those are the three major indicators, the things that show up most often in rock stars. Less powerful, but also potentially inclined to be a rock star, is Venus and Uranus in other vibrations, such as in 8 or 16, because 8 and 16 are just basic, fundamental driving forces. So if Venus and Uranus show up there, there's the potential to be a rock star as well, because it's just, you're a Venus-Uranus person. You've got to dance, you've got to sing, you've got to be involved in music, something. And the rock and roll is just one potential expression of it. You'll also see Venus and Uranus in 55 vibration. This is the combination of 11 and 5. Now, let me also say this. Take 5, 6, 7 different rock musicians. They're all different. Some are more like a heavy rock. Obviously, everybody's different. With 55 vibration, it's creative. These are people who arrange, maybe compose, they invent, they discover music. So that's what you will see with 55 vibration. Composing, arranging, the originality, the freshness. 55. So not only do these aspects and planetary configurations incline to rock and roll, they incline to specific kinds. So the people at Venus and Uranus in 5 or 10 vibration, they're not restricted to rock and roll, and they will move outside the rock genre as well. The 11, 22, 44, they're more strictly wild, It's not going to be some sedate, soft thing, unless there are other configurations that will incline to that. But in itself, that's what it does. Now 35 vibration shows up. 35 times 2, which is 70. 35 times 4 is 140. I didn't put the full number because it may not trigger in your mind. 140 is 35 times 4. And 35 times 12. So these vibrations. Now, why does 35, Venus and Uranus in 35 vibration, incline to rock stars? Actually, this also, like 5, is not restricted to rock music. This is inclined to music in general, and it's inclined to refined music, to elegance, to practice with creativity. So this develops the excellence to be a star. It gives you the capacity to be a very creative, involved person. Somebody who likes to go into their music studio and record and replay and take another take and try adding this and do that and practice this thing and this little improvisation or whatever it is, or chord changes over and over, and to get it right and to really appreciate excellence. So when they hear other musicians play something in an outstanding way with mastery, they go, wow. So 35 leads to that orientation. So it's going to incline to excellence. The potential is there. So each one of these vibrations is inclining to excellence in music, or specifically rock music, in different ways. So these are the kinds of configurations that show up. And they also tell us about some of the variations in possibility and potential, depending on exactly what vibration is involved. The least powerful, you'll sometimes see Venus and Uranus in 33 or 66 vibe, but these people are not real rockers. It's the softness of 11 times 3, 11 times 6. They're more like the folk rock sort of style. So that's considered to be rock and roll as well. But one of the things about astrology is it tells you very specific kinds of energy. And so with the 33 and 66, you're getting this more delicate, soft sound. One of the people, let me not get into specific people. Let me just go over this. And also, if you add Pluto to the Venus and Uranus, that Venus, Uranus, Pluto is a strong signature for rock music, and you can see that happening. And what we did in developing this we call AstroSignature. Just means combination of astrological variables, aspects, houses, planet positions, whatever you're using. In this case, only aspects. We used a 16-degree orb. That's in the harmonic chart. I also call it the vibrational chart. So those of you familiar with vibrational astrology, you know that, for example, in the 8 vibration chart, everything's blown up 8 times, and a 16 vibration blown up 16 times. So if the orb is 16 degrees in an 8 vibration chart, that's blown up 8 times. It's actually 2 degrees in the natal chart. Well, don't worry about the technicalities if that's all new to you. All you need to know is that if you look at somebody's 11 vibration chart, 5 vibration chart, 35 vibration chart, 55 if you want to see creative ability. You will see the aspects you're looking for, because almost all of this is in the 11 vibration chart. 11, 22, 44 means conjunction, opposition, and square. 33 and 16 means sextiles and trines. We're actually just saying look at the Ptolemaic aspects in the 11 vibration chart. Also look at conjunctions and oppositions in the 5 and 8 vibration chart. And in the 35 vibration, look for conjunctions, oppositions, trines, squares, semi-sextiles, and quincunxes. That's all we're really saying here. And that's it. There you go. That inclines to be a rock star. It gives you the potential. Now let me give you some idea of the history of this, how it developed. Well, I did the research in 3 stages. I've talked about other research that I've done also in stages, because sometimes I'll do a study, get another idea about it, maybe a few years later, do a variation on it, or go back and look at it again. So once we have this data collection, it's natural to go back to it periodically when you get inspired about it, and continue it. So this research started in 2007 when a breakthrough was made in seeing musical talent in birth charts. At the time I did the research in 2007, I did not know it was a breakthrough. It was exploratory research, and when we followed up on the exploratory research, it confirmed that we really found something. So let me show you, let's see, I don't have the browser up here, just hold on one second. Let me show you this article that came out in 2007 on this research. So if you go to astrosoftware.com, right? Let me say that again, astrosoftware.com. You go to articles and videos in the menu at the top, click on articles. You'll see a long list of articles. Article number 5, AstroSignatures and the Galcoin data revealed in 2007. This is what started off the insights into what's inclining people to have musical talent. This is exploratory research. It's a kind of data mining where you go into a database and find out what planetary patterns there are. And as you know, data mining is a big deal these days. Why? Because in most fields, either social sciences or hard sciences, any kind of area where you're trying to understand things, we often have databases now. And databases often are online or in various programs, and you can search through it to find configurations. That's exactly what I did, because the Galcoins, Miquel and Francois Galcoin, collected birth charts of thousands and thousands of people. That is a treasure. You can look through that data and see if you can find something going on. It's a first step in research to build a model. A lot of times people think of research as testing models. Well, before you test something, you've got to come up with an idea, and you can get new insights. We often call it knowledge discovery. Discover new things that you hadn't thought of by looking through the databases. So in the Sirius software, we include the data collected by Galcoins. They collected birth data of musicians, also actors, writers, athletes, different groups of people. And I used the research features in the Sirius software. Let me show you real quickly. Let's go. I don't want to be there. Let me get out of here. Okay. Let me get out of here. Okay. Here we're in the Sirius software. Here's one of the rock musicians that we researched. I'll explain why he was included, Jimi Hendrix. But let me show you this exploratory research. We go to the research feature in the Sirius software, and we go to this button here, exploratory, assumptionless research. And what you can do here is you can pick a group of people, such as the musicians from the Galcoin database or any other group of people, and you could pick a pair of planets. Like I was looking at Venus-Uranus, and you can look at the angular distribution, how those, what is the angular distance between them. You can look at to see if it's in certain harmonic aspects. And in this paper, that's what I'm showing here. I'm showing the distribution of different planets for different professions. And here's the final conclusion of what we found in the year 2007 is that for scientists, they often have planets aspecting Saturn. Now, this is curious, and I didn't expect it. That's why we do exploratory research. We might find something new. The planet Saturn came out conspicuous in the research. I wasn't necessarily expecting that. But that's what we found, and especially Sun Saturn. Now, this is interesting because we can think of Sun Saturn as kind of your inhibition, what's going to block you, some people would say. But Sun Saturn seems to indicate your career choice. Whoa, not so malefic after all. For example, scientists have Sun Saturn in vibration 14 or 28. I put this in red because it was very high compared to the other groups and compared to what would be expected randomly. Scientists in the Gauquelin database have Sun and Saturn in 14 and 28 vibration. That's a fact, okay? Now, whether that's just a random fluctuation in the data or whether it's a real meaningful relationship, we don't know. But what you do in exploratory research very often is you look for something that makes sense according to your theories. According to the theories in vibrational astrology, this is exactly what we expect. Now, that may sound strange if you're not into harmonics and vibrations, but it would be like saying scientists have Mercury and Saturn, or Sun and Saturn, or Mercury, Saturn, in Earth signs, like it's practical, or Virgo, like it goes and analyzes. From the point of view of vibrational astrology, this is really straightforward. It's exactly what we expect. People spending lots amount of time poring over data and analyzing it. These are the greatest scientists. Not just somebody who says, oh, I'm a scientist. This is the Gauquelin data. They're from the Who's Who books. They're the greatest. They're people who are making discoveries, who really pursue science in huge depth. It makes sense. And the painters, very interesting. They have Sun and Saturn in 20 and 40 vibration, which is based on 5 times 4, 5 times 8. And 5 is flowing, exploratory, and often creative. So the more artistic people, 5, the more scientific, 7. It's very interesting. It's called exploratory research. We're just exploring to see what's in the data. We don't know if it's meaningful. Research is often a slow process. You don't just snap your fingers and get answers. It's not usually anyway. And then the musicians have Sun and Saturn in 11, 22, and 44 vibration. Now, I had already determined by 2007 that 11 vibration is restless and moving. So I thought maybe if you're a restless person and you want things to be moving, you would pursue an area that's moving, that's dynamic, which is what music is. You play a note, you got to play the next note. You got to keep with the flow, you got to keep going. That's very interesting. I was just exploring, but this was the first stage of the research. And then in 17 vibration and 34, 17 and 17 times 2, Sun and Saturn for actors. Very curious. Well, within a year of doing this research and looking at the charts of actors, it became very convincing that this was not a blip in the data, not just some random fluctuation, but 17 and 34 do show up with actors, very much so. Same is true with 11. It became more and more obvious in personal consultations with people, in additional research, that this is on to something, this exploratory research. So that was the first indication that these vibrations are related. The first really strong indication, had hints of it before then, but started to become clearer and clearer, stronger evidence. Then in 2015, for no particular reason, I just decided to research rock and roll stars. I guess one reason is I figured people would be interested in this. Rock stars are an interesting group of people. Excuse me. So I went to Google and I typed greatest rock and roll stars of all time. And I found some website pages. So I took one of the website pages and it listed, I don't remember, I have another video that goes into detail. I think it was 40 or 50 greatest rock stars of all time. I think it was 50. And I entered them into the Sirius software, which has this huge database. And out of those 50, 13 of them are in the database with AA accuracy. Means accuracy from birth certificate. So we look at those 13 charts to see if we can find anything in common in them. And what do we see? 11 vibration, but not Sun and Saturn. That was in the Gauquelin research. Venus and Uranus, which theoretically makes a lot of sense, and sometimes with Pluto, for rock music. Wouldn't make maybe as much sense for possibly other kinds of music, but for rock music really, really makes sense. So what I did today, November 1st, 2020, is I decided to double check that research in 2015. Because the research in 2015, I did things like this. I brought up the charts. Let's go back here to Jimi Hendrix. He was one of the 13 people listed. And I look at his birth chart and I go, Sagittarius rising. Do rock musicians tend to have Sagittarius rising? Venus in the 12th house? Sun in Sagittarius? What's in the 5th house? Oh, Uranus. That would make sense. Let's see if other ones have Uranus in the 5th house. I just start looking at it. What's ruling the 5th house? Venus is in the 12th. Look and see whatever theory you want to use. Do you see something? Well, I wanted to look at 11 vibration as well as the standard, more common ideas. And I go to the 11 vibration chart and I see that Venus is trine Uranus. Venus is trine Uranus. Venus at 23.5 Libra. Uranus at 27 Aquarius 12. A little bit less than a 4-degree orb. That's not very strong. 3.5 to 4 degree orb. Not very strong. We allow a little over a 5-degree orb. 5 degrees 20 minutes. Not super strong, but he does have Venus and Uranus trine in the 11 vibration. And we look at charts of other people and we see similar kinds of things. Let me show you another example. Aretha Franklin, 11 vibration. There's the Venus, Uranus, Pluto, all within 10 degrees. And we allow 16-degree orb in the vibrational chart. And we see that kind of Venus-Uranus in either a conjunction, opposition, square, trine, or sextile, in a Ptolemaic aspect in 11 vibration. So I made some videos about it, about this finding. Well, it occurred to me today that I should maybe quantify the findings. Would be a good idea. Because this is rather subjective. I can count how many people, but is this, out of the 13 have Venus, Uranus? But it's nice to measure it, to make sure that it's really there. Maybe because the orbits are, the planets go retrograde and stuff, maybe there's some kind of thing that these aspects occur more often, or maybe it's not really as strong as I think it is. It's easy to project what you want to see on the data. So a good thing to do is to double check and see if it's really unlikely, because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's unlikely. I'm saying it's very unlikely that Venus will be conjunct Uranus in one chart, trine over here in the 11 vibration for Jimi Hendrix. I'm saying it's unlikely. Well, I can see what the likelihood is just by making an AstroSignature in the Sirius software and then telling it to tell me what the probability is. It's a very good thing to do to verify. I never did it. Why? Because I'm doing a zillion different projects, all at once, programming and all this crazy stuff. So finally, I got around to it today. I said, let me double check and see, is it really there? And it is. And I made the specific formula that I gave you earlier. Let's go back to it. Came up with this specific formula, which is what I said in the earlier videos on rock music. I said these kinds of things. But here I'm making it crystal clear and giving a weight, or you could call it a strength, to each aspect and seeing if it really shows up. So let me show you how we make the AstroSignature and how we confirm that it's really there. So I'm just going through this, 2015. Here we are up to the current research that I did today, the 2020 research, which confirms and refines the results from the 2015 research. I just want to quantify it, see if it's really there. And two things come out of today's research. Two little steps forward. One is we come up with a very specific AstroSignature, which I just listed for you, a summary of what it is and which parts of it are the strongest. And we confirm that the probability is less than 0.01, less than 1 out of 100, that the 13 musicians, it's a small group of people, just 13 musicians. You can learn stuff from a dozen charts. You don't need hundreds and hundreds when you're building theories. You can just start to build a solid model. So we have built a solid, simple model. This is almost never done in astrology. And if you try to build a solid, simple model using houses and signs and normal aspects, I can pretty much guarantee you won't be able to find it. It isn't there. These rock stars, Aretha Franklin and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison, that we used in this study, they don't have much in common. You're not going to see it. I mean, if you do, let me know. Write an article about it. We'll make a video about it. But it's extremely difficult, and people are not able to find it. So finding, and when I say simple, let me go back to the AstroSignature. Why do I say it's simple? Because I've used only 3 planets, and mostly just 2, just Venus and Uranus, and add in Pluto sometimes. And I use the same orb for every vibration, 16 degrees. I don't adjust the orb for different harmonics. I keep it simple and straightforward. And then I keep the concept simple and straightforward. 11, 22, 44 all get the same weight. So it's a fairly simple formula in that there are 2 planets with fairly consistent rules. Now, is it 100% simple and consistent or whatever? No, but it's relatively simple and straightforward. There's nothing arbitrary thrown in there. Like, let's put in Venus trine Neptune. And it wouldn't make any sense. Well, according to vibrational astrology, if the trine works, the sextile should work. Just having some arbitrary aspects that happen to be in those 13 charts and having a long list isn't very impressive. If you can build a relatively simple model that's consistent with theory, which all of this is exactly how we think in vibrational astrology. It's exactly the kind of results. And also the style of the music of each person fits what we found. But as far as the solid quantitative part, we've built a model that is consistent with theory, that's simple, and the probability of that model being there is less than 0.01. Now the next step is to collect more data, confirm and verify it. But you have to do the research step by step, explore, build a model, build something that looks solid, and then begin to test it. If you just jump in with your a priori assumptions of what you think people have, that's what astrologers have been doing for decades and decades and decades, and it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because our assumptions of what's in the charts is not true. And we need to explore, use these data mining and knowledge discovery techniques, and then gradually build the model. So let me show you here quickly how this works. We go into the AstroSignature feature. Here, AstroSignature. And I made an AstroSignature for rock musicians. And I'll go over here. So I've got rock musician, customize it, and there is the list. How did I make this list? I built it on what I thought I was seeing in the charts by exploring the data. I thought I was seeing Venus and Uranus in 11, 22, and 44. And very often Pluto also got involved. And I just list them. And there they are. Venus and Uranus in 5 or 10 vibration, 20 points. Venus and Uranus in 11, 22, or 44, 20 points. Very few points for 33 and 66. So the summary of all this, there's your 55, the 35, 70, 105, which is 35 times 3. I summarized all of this in that first main slide right there. But that's how you do it. You just specify each item and save it, and then you run it. I select a category of charts, and what I did is I took the 13 people and gave them their own category. Let me show you that. I'll go back here, and if we go into the data entry screen for Jimi Hendrix, I assigned him to a new category, rock musicians for research. So what I did is I went over here to, whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. What do I want to do here? I want to go here to select a category, and I go into the My Data, and I made a category called Rock Musicians for Research. And I changed Jimi Hendrix's category to Rock Musicians for Research. And I did that for all 13. I called up each chart and put them in that category. Now I've got my 13 people that I did in the research in their own category, and I run the research on that category. So let me run it, which I had already done before. So I go to research, go to AstroSignature, go down here to rock musicians. My category was the control group. I'll tell you about that in a second. Let me change this. I go to change, select a category to the rock musicians, click OK, and I run the analysis, begin the analysis. See, there's 13 charts. Those are the 13 people who, back in 2015, I studied their charts. Data that's not cherry-picked. I had no control over who those 13 people are. They happen to be the people listed on a website. This is what makes the research very compelling. No data, no selection bias, we call it, or cherry-picking. It's whatever was on that website. And these are the scores. Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, Grace Slick, Aretha Franklin, Buddy Holly, etc. And they scored anywhere from 1 point to 50 points. Then we make a control group. I'll show you in a second how we run the control group. But first, let me go ahead and just select it. I made a control group. I'll change the category to the control group. Control group for rock musicians. Run this. And look at how low their scores are. They vary from 0 to 19. So that shows, yes, we made a formula based on our observations. Now, it's not shocking. We're expecting this. We built a model based on this data, but it's confirming that it's right. And then you can save the results, and then you can run what we call a t-test. And I saved the results. I ran 5 different tests, and here was my 5th one as I played around with the formula, where I do the rock musicians versus the control group, and then you just tell it to compare, and it tells me it's significant at the 0.01 level and some technical information about it. So that's how we confirm that those combination of variables that appear to be in this data really are there. Now, have we proven something, not the right word for research, but have we created really strong, compelling evidence? The next step would be to get some new data that we haven't looked at before and apply it and see if it works. And I've kind of done this, but not rigorously. Every time I see the chart of a rock and roll musician that I hadn't looked at before, I look to see if these things are there, and they are there. But if we had a way to collect a new group, we could run the research again and see if it's confirmed. The point is this: more than validating to non-astrologers that this is really works, and eventually we will collect the data and validate these things, is we're building a solid model that is supported by actual data. This is a huge step forward, that when we say this is inclined to have a potential to be a rock musician, we have actual data to support that there's a solid model being built and agrees with our theory as well. I want to show you how you create the control group. So the way you can create the control group is over here in these research features. There's a button here, Make Data for Stat Software or Control Group. And you go here to create control group. And up at the top, you select the rock musicians. That's the birth data you want. And then you select a category. If I go here to category, I put it over here, control group. You name it, what this group of charts is. And then what it does is it mixes together the dates, times, and places. Like it might take the month that Jimi Hendrix was born, the day that Bob Dylan was born, the year that Aretha Franklin was born, the place that Donovan was born, and mixes them all together into a very strict control group. Extremely strict, rigorous. Like if you get, the charts are so similar in their distributions that, in the distributions of the planets, throughout the day, throughout the year, etc., that if you find something, it's really there. So it really is in these charts, these Venus-Uranus aspects that I listed really are in that group of 13 charts. Now, for somebody who is extremely skeptical of astrology in general, or extremely skeptical of vibrational astrology, they often say, well, you can go through data and make, something work. Well, that's true if you just pick any old thing. But to pick things that work, that fit your expectations, because I'm expecting things like 11 vibration, and you also see some things you didn't quite expect, that's why it's knowledge discovery. That's what is being done in all of the sciences these days. Knowledge discovery, data mining, done properly to build solid models. So that's it, my friends. Let me see if I have anything else I wanted to say. I believe that's it. So let me see here. Yeah, that's it. So the two big things from the 2020 research that I did, the research I did this morning, November 1st, 2020, is come up with a very clear definition of what the AstroSignature is, not as fuzzy as it was before, and confirm, yes, indeed, those configurations. Let's end this showing the summary. These aspects between Venus and Uranus, and sometimes Pluto getting involved as well, really do show up in the charts of the rock musicians that we studied more than any other group of people. Can we confirm it in future research? I'm very optimistic that we will, because we've been using these ideas for many years. I've taught intensive training programs, bringing up charts of people, looking at clients, looking at every new rock musician. Our personal experience is confirming it, and the ideas are consistent with what we expect. And as we use this, it becomes clearer and clearer exactly how this works. So that's the latest development in understanding what inclines a person to have the potential to be a rock star. And also, as you might know, I've taken those videos on rock stars and I've put them in this new part of astrologydc.com, the video library. So you can go back and look at the series of, I think it's 16 videos that I made on the 2015 research, looking at each chart of the rock stars. So all that's in the video library for subscribers as well. And I'll add this one to it as well. Well, that's it, my friends. The information on what's in the charts of rock stars. I'll be making more videos like this on other groups of people as well that we've studied, and the planetary configurations that we're seeing in them. This is a whole new world for astrology, where we support our ideas with actual data. And when you use it with your clients, if you're a practicing astrologer, wow, it's so exciting. When we do teach classes in vibrational astrology, you meet with people, you see these configurations, it means so much to people. It really hits home. So on an experiential level is what it's really about for the practicing astrologer. And all of this research is just giving us good theories that we can use with our clients to help them. Thank you very much for listening, my friends. God bless. Namaste.